Oh, hell. Hello everyone. As you can tell, it's raining, so today's video is going to be just a little bit different. My lighting is gross, and that's kind of a shame because I look pretty cute today. Exhibit A. So I've been wanting to hand make a crochet sweater for a long time, and what better colors to use than my favorite colors. So we're going to go ahead and do that. But before I do that, there's a couple of things I want to cover. The materials I use are going to be listed both in the video and in the description box, so you can go ahead and pause or check out the description box. We're going to go over measurements as well and how I did that and how you can do it to get a better fitting sweater for your specific body type. We're going to cover gauge, which is an absolute must unless you want to continuously keep frogging your sweater because it's not turning out how you wanted it. And finally, we're going to get to it, which will probably have to be covered in another video because it might take a while, so hang in there, hold on to your yarn, and let's get started. So first, materials. Yarn, I used stash that I already had, but if you want to use the same yarn, I use Paintbox yarns, Simply DK. You can get those at lovecraft.com, and I use them in the colors Dusty Lilac for the purple, Summer Sky Blue for the blue, Blush Pink for the pink, and not pine green, but pistachio green, which is a little bit lighter for the green that I have, but I think pine green would be a good substitute since the pistachio green is sold out for right now. Honorable mentions would also be this Dusty Rose, which is the nice light purple, and I'm not really into it, but this Candy Floss Pink. There's also these options at Michael's, which was this Snuggly Wuggly baby yarn and this cream cotton yarn, which I think would be interesting for a sweater. Now that we have the yarn down, let's talk about the crochet hook. I used a 5mm size H crochet hook, not this specific one, but I just wanted to give you an example. This yarn actually calls for a 4mm, but I kind of want to work this up a little quicker, so we're going to use a bigger hook. Now other materials you'll need is going to be a measuring tape, which you'll use to measure your own body or a sweater that you already like the fit of. I'm going to do the first method. You'll also need these locking stitch markers. You're going to want to make sure that they're the locking ones and not the round knit ones. And a tapestry needle for sewing all the pieces together at the end or weaving in your ends. And finally, you're going to need a little bit of crochet knowledge. I'm not going to go too in depth into all of the crochet terminology, but I am going to cover the basic stitches that I use. Alright, now that we have materials covered, what I'm going to do here is draw out the sweater template the way that I want to make it, and since it's a simple crochet sweater, that's what I called it. And using the color palette on the left side, I'm going to color it in to see where I want the color placement first. So I have this pink sleeve, but then I was wondering if the blue sleeve would look better and the pink trim. Turns out I like the pink sleeve better. So drawing it out and coloring it helps me not waste my time making a blue sleeve and then having to make the pink sleeve later. So what I'm doing here is kind of drawing the schematic, and yours might end up different. So let me quickly show you how I got these measurements. That's me. The length of my body over my bust is 23 inches, and the length of my arm from my armpit to my wrist is 18 inches. The circumference of both my bust and my hips while I'm sitting down is going to be 48 inches, and while I'm standing up is going to be 44 inches. So with that, I can assume that the full length of the sweater should be at least 23 inches. I know that I'm going to want at least 3 inches length of ribbing at the bottom, so the full length of the body should be about 20 inches. The circumference of both my bust and hips is going to be 48 inches, so I'm going to need it to be at least 48 inches in width. Now I'm going to do a little bit of modification here because my back is wider than my front part, so I'm going to add at least 5 inches to the back, which means I'm subtracting 5 inches from the front, but that'll come more in handy later when we're splitting for the front and the back side. Now for the arms, my arm length is 18 inches, and I know I want 3 inches for the cuff here too, and I'll need 15 inches at least for the arm length itself. Another measurement you'll want to take, especially if you're a bigger person like me, is the circumference of your biceps so that your arm fits comfortably in your sleeve. My arm is 15 inches in circumference, and for it to fit comfortably inside of an oversized sweater, I'm going to add 5 inches to that, which then means that the front part and the back part of the body that connects to the arms need to be 10 inches each. Now for another modification, I actually want the sweater to be oversized but cinch at the waist. So rather than making it 48 inches in width all the way around, I'm going to make the bottom ribbed cuff 44 inches around. And I'm going to do the same cinching around the wrist cuff, so it'll go from 20 inches in circumference to 6 inches. And after all that, I hope I haven't lost you. Oh look, the sun came out. Let's move on to gauge. So if you've never done gauge before, you're going to need your measuring tape and your swatch, which you should try to do 4 by 4 inches, and here's why. So I'm going to put the measuring tape from one stitch and end it at the nearest stitch, and then count the stitches between the 0 and the 4. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I have 14 stitches within the 4 inches. Next we're going to do the rows. So each one of these little sections is actually 2 rows. So we have 20 rows in total. Now for the hard part. Screenshot this or commit this to memory. But the number of stitches times the number of rows has to equal 4 by 4 inches. I don't know why, that's above my pay grade. So your stitches are your width. You're going to take your goal width in inches, divide it by 4 inches, and you'll get, in this case I'm going to put Z so that it won't be confusing. So your Z times the amount of stitches that you got will equal your cast on. And the same thing for your rows. So your goal for your rows in inches divided by 4 inches will equal Y, and then you multiply that by the number of rows you got in your gauge swatch, and that'll equal the number of rows that you need to crochet in order to get that specific measurement. If you can remember to do this for any garment that you want to make without a pattern, it'll help it fit better to your body. So now we're going to use the measurements we got from our gauge swatch to figure out what our cast on will be and the amount of rows I'll need to crochet to get the length of the body, which is the 20 inches. So we established that 14 stitches equals 4 inches, 20 rows equals 4 inches. So 14 stitches by 20 rows equals 4 by 4 inches. So now I'm just going to scoot this up a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing I just explained. We're going to do 50 inches because I've just decided to do 50 instead of 48. And then we're going to divide that. So our total is 12.5. Now we're going to multiply that by the 14 stitches that we got earlier. And that will be 175. And this is our cast on number. So this is the amount of stitches that I'm going to need to cast on or start with for the sweater to fit my body. Your cast on number might be different if we're doing the math the right way. So now that we have the cast on, we're going to see how much I'm going to have to crochet to get the 20 inches for the body length. It's going to be 20 inches divided by 4 inches equals 5 times the 20 rows. So that's going to be 100 rows for 20 inches of body length. Keep in mind the 20 inches is just for the body. I'm also going to have to do the 15 inches later on for the arm length. Now let me show you why I'm harping on gauge and measurement so much. This is before getting gauge. I thought 250 stitches would be a good amount to make it nice and oversized. However, it was a little bit too oversized for my liking. Now the second one is 200 stitches. My stitch cast on that we got earlier is 175, which would probably be around here. So I'm actually glad I did 200 instead because it feels a lot more roomy. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the stitches that we're going to use for this sweater. And if you already know how to crochet, you can go ahead and skip through this part. This is just for beginners. Also, please don't comment about the stains on my mat. I am very aware and also very disappointed in myself. Thank you. So we're going to get started with the slip knot, which you don't even need your hook for. You're going to take this tail end of your yarn, wrap it around your finger, pull it in under that loop you made. So now you should have this. Now grab it from here, from the loop, and then you pull, and that is your slip knot. Now you can put this over your hook and either pull on this end or pull on both ends to tighten it onto your hook. So now that you have your slip knot and your first stitch on your hook, you're going to learn how to chain. A chain is just where you yarn over and pull this yarn directly into the loop that's on the hook. So this is called a chain stitch because it creates this chain. So one more time, you have the stitch on your needle, you yarn over, which some people do this. I hold the yarn in my left hand and it's already wrapped around my finger, so I actually move the hook to go around the yarn and pull it through. Now when you're doing it faster, it just looks like this the whole time. So this is what I meant when I said cast on. You're going to chain as many of these as you need for your cast on number, and then you're going to add one, and I'll show you why. So here I'm adding another stitch, and altogether I have 11. And now I'm going to bring that first stitch that we made with the slip knot in it around to the beginning where I'm working, making sure not to twist my stitches. If you can see, this front part has the V's and the back part has the little ridges or the bump. And after adjusting your working yarn to where it's comfortable for you, you're going to slip your hook into that first stitch, bring the yarn in, and then bring the yarn into the second stitch. And that is a slip stitch where you don't yarn over, you just bring them straight through. Then you're going to chain 1 and chain 2. And that's how you're going to start every row. You're going to chain 2. So now we're going to talk about the double crochet. For the double crochet, you're going to yarn over once, go into that chain, which you can see here is the next little V in the line. So you go into that chain, yarn over again, and pull that yarn in through the chain. So now you have 3 little loops or stitches on your hook. With those 3, you're going to yarn over and pull that yarn through 1, 2 of the stitches. And then you're going to yarn over again and pull it through the remaining 2. And this is your double crochet stitch. We're going to make our entire sweater with this stitch because it's the easiest and fastest stitch. So now I'm just going to quickly go through the whole row and show you how to slip stitch to end your row and start a new one. Okay, we're at the end of the row now, so what we're going to do to finish this row is slip stitch into the second chain that we made at the beginning of the row, which is going to be this V right here that connects to the next stitch. And we're going to go under both of those little legs, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through again. And chain 1 and chain 2. And if you end up doing this correctly, this is what it should start to look like. And this is the body where we're going in the round. You'll see here where my starting row is and all of the slip stitches, the chain 2s that I do to get up to the top, and that bottom was the yarn that I was supposed to weave in, but I actually crocheted it in instead. So yeah, this is what I have so far. It's not much considering I've messed up already. So I'm hoping I have an update next week and it'll be at least halfway finished. That's not to get your hopes up though, because I haven't been feeling well and it was a struggle even to finish this video, but here we are. Hey! If you've stuck it out this far, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching. I know I could have followed a pattern. I know there are multiple crochet patterns out there, but this is one of those creative things that just struck joy for me, making a crochet garment on my own, because I have never actually made a crochet garment. So joy is something that I've been lacking as of late, and I kind of needed this. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you for part 2, and I will have some kind of progress. Hopefully. Bye!